That end, help me welcome our club president, Fred Horn, debonair president.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome. Welcome, Toastmasters. Welcome, guests. If you are not familiar with Toastmasters, what we do is we practice public speaking and leadership skills. We're a nonprofit organization. We meet here at Ivy Tech. We thank Ivy Tech for letting us meet here. It's been great that we can have events like this. Tonight, I'd like to call this a celebration of communication. We are all about communication at Toastmasters, and we thought we would have this open house event to show you what we do. We're going to go into two parts. The first part, I'll call the opening act, is a mini Toastmaster meeting. We'll have a speech, table topics, and some evaluations. We'll get all that done in about 30 minutes. And then next, we'll have our featured speaker, Sandy Thompson. And I should introduce some of our dignitaries before we get started. First of all, thank you, Sandy, for being here. Also, we have our division governor, Bob Norris, is with us. Welcome, Bob. And we have our area governor, Peggy Ball. Peggy, thank you for being here. And with that, we'll get right into our Toastmasters program. At each meeting, we have an MC for the evening, Master of Ceremonies. We call her the Toastmaster for the evening. And this evening's Toastmaster is an experienced member of our club. She's been in the club since 1987, I believe. She has held nearly every office in Toastmasters, including president. She was president when I joined 3 years ago, and she was a big part of the reason why I was impressed with Toastmasters, with her enthusiasm and her positive attitude, and she just has fun with Toastmasters. She is a DTM, the highest distinction in Toastmasters. It stands for Distinguished Toastmaster. And she will be our guide to lead us through the program this evening. So please welcome Bernice Wilkins.
Thank you, Fred, and good evening, everybody. It's so good to see the room full this evening. I know that Fred talked about learning to give speeches, and it sounds like we're all planning on going out there and being public speakers, maybe professionally. Not so. You don't have to plan on being a public speaker to come to Toastmasters, because we learn communication. If you belong to a church and you help organize church suppers, church maybe bake sales or auctions, you need leadership skills. We teach that at Toastmasters. If you belong to the PTA or to a neighborhood association and you wish you could get up and speak your mind and put your ideas out there, but you're afraid to, you don't quite know how to be effective in speaking in front of people, come to Toastmasters. It's not just speeches, it's communicating. If you want to motivate people, motivate your teenagers to clean the basement, I don't think we can help you there at all. Now, to begin our program, I know that Fred talked about demonstration, celebration. I say let's demonstrate and celebrate. We will begin first by thanking the Almighty for bringing us together safely tonight. If you would please stand for the invocation and pledge. Please be in an attitude of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us come together. Thank you for letting us assemble freely, speak freely in this wonderful nation of ours with all of its problems. We are just so lucky to be living here. Thank you for this day with all of its problems and challenges. Let those things just make us stronger people. And in our meetings, Lord, let us help each other. Let our words be kind, never cruel, never hurtful. When our evening is through, see us safely to our homes. These things we ask in Jesus' name, amen. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated. This will be kind of a shortened version of our typical Toastmasters meeting. We want to keep things moving right along. so we can get to our featured speaker. That's what we're really here for tonight. We're all anxious to hear Sandy Thompson speak. But I will let you know who will be on the program this evening. We have one member speaker, that's Robert Knox, and his evaluator will be Dave Wilkins. We will have a topic session, which is off-the-cuff speeches. It will be evaluated by Greg Herring. We also have a grammarian to see that we use the King's English or Queen's English, as it were, properly. And the grammarian this evening is Jake Fetters. Would you please present the word, Jake?
Word of the evening is Augean, which means extremely difficult, unpleasant, or filthy. Here's the usage. Rajiv Gandhi gave an impression that he would clean the Augean stables that the Congress had come to represent.
Oh.
And the purpose of the word of the evening is to use it as many times as you can, work it into your speeches, and I didn't pick an easy one. But so it'll be a challenge, and I'll keep track of how many people use it, how many times, as well as, of course, the grammar.
Thank you, Jake. You know, a Toastmasters meeting is never I can't say it, in any sense of the word, any of those definitions. I'll learn to say it right. We also have another participant that is a very important of Toastmasters, the timer. Our timer this evening is Andy Hyatt, and would he please explain the timing system? Andy?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Toastmasters and most welcome guests. I am the timer this evening. It's my job to keep track of how much time we use and help people know how long they've been speaking, so that they know what they're doing. Our club speaker tonight, Robert, had asked for 6 to 8 minutes, and at 6 minutes, I'll give him the green card. At 7 minutes, the yellow card, and at 8 minutes, you'll get the red card. During our table topic session, responses will be 1 minute in length. So at 30 seconds, respondents will get the green. At 40, they'll get the yellow. At 50 seconds, you get the red. And at 60 seconds, I'll lead the applause to help you to the comfort of your seat. I'll give you a report back on how we've done later. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. You'll keep us on track, believe me. Now for our first speaker. This is a club member. This gentleman has belonged to Toastmasters for 13 years. I can hardly believe that, Robert, that you've been here that long. He has a wonderful voice. I really enjoy just listening to his voice. He is an advanced communicator silver. We receive awards in Toastmasters for how many speeches, workshops that we've conducted, that sort of thing. This is the 3rd level. He has reached the 3rd level. He also belongs to the Advanced Speakers and Leaders Club, which is for Advanced Toastmasters. And I did not get the title of his speech, but I just bet he will let us know. Please help me welcome Robert Knox.
Thank you, Bernice. The title of my speech is The Power of Thank You. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most honored and welcome guests, 2 little words that we say without thinking, reflexively. Thank you. Maybe you are one of those who sends TNX over your phone. In this day of texting and emails, the proper way to say thank you, the written thank you note, has almost become extinct. Yet not so long ago, it was de rigueur, after attending any occasion by invitation, after receiving a gift, or being the recipient of a special favor. To be lax in this responsibility was a social gaffe, a blunder. It reflected poorly on oneself, one's parents, one's ancestry. Over 30 years ago, I was a dinner guest at a friend's home in Chicago. The host asked me to put on some music. I had brought a cassette with me, Ray Lynch's Deep Breakfast. A fellow guest liked it so much, I gave it to him. He thanked me, and I thought no more about it until 2 weeks later I received a note I will quote verbatim. "Dear Robert," two of the most beautiful words in the English language, "thank you. I so love listening to Deep Breakfast." On a similar, yet more recent note, pun intended, I received a thank you from the president of the board at my church. I spearheaded an effort to invite all of the membership to a congregational meeting. Superfluous, you say? Perhaps, but it accomplished the intended result. We had a quorum in attendance. Jan's thank you started out in great big printed capital letters. "Robert!" exclamation point. "Mission accomplished!" exclamation point. And you made it happen. Thank you for your participation and your involvement. Wow. Simple words, and yet music to the one who receives them on that small piece of paper, frozen in time, to be enjoyed over and over again. Well, enough about the receiving, on to the giving. Over 15 years ago, I purchased a 1994 Chrysler LeBaron from a man named Amar Masri at a place called Image Motors. It was very nice, more than I thought I could afford, and I really enjoyed driving it. So I wrote him a thank you, thanking him for helping me to purchase such a nice vehicle and for being such a pleasure to deal with. Alas, 2 weeks later, the air conditioning ceased to function. With trepidation, I returned to Image Motors, knowing full well my warranty was nil. It was an as-is purchase. When I walked into the reception area, what did I see underneath the glass, front and center on the big desk, but the very same note I had penned just a week before? I asked if we could come to an agreement. He said, "I'll pay half the repair." We shook hands, and the air conditioning worked perfectly for the remaining 10 years I drove the vehicle. My last example is also my favorite. During my tenure as the branch manager of Electrolux Fort Wayne, I was invited to address the engineering team at corporate headquarters in Bristol, Virginia. I was treated like royalty. Upon my return, I wrote over 24 thank yous, each one peppered with specifics of my interaction with that individual. And then, in one of my most unaware, unwitting, yet absolutely brilliant moves, Dad, you were right, sometimes dumb luck works in your favor, I mailed all of them in one envelope to James McCain, the Chief of Operations, at whose behest I was invited to Bristol. So James got to play postman Santa Claus, walk around and toss out all of these handwritten thank yous and watch people open them. Doesn't that sound like fun? Later, James said it was a lot of fun, but there was not a lot of work done in the whole facility that day. I was the topic of conversation for weeks. Everybody knew who Robert was, and, as Martha would say, it was a good thing. 2 months after my return to Fort Wayne, my serviceman said, "The printer's spitting Chinese." What? It was printing 2 lines over 1. So I called corporate. Now, I mean no offense to anyone, but Bristol is right on the border of Tennessee and Virginia. So this is what I heard when I called. "Hey, Bobby, is that you? How you doing, boy? You say your printer's spitting Chinese? Well, don't you fret about it. We'll just get you a brand spanking new one off the shelf and on that FedEx truck today, and you'll get it tomorrow. How's that?" Ever the skeptic, my service tech, Jeff, refused to believe it. He said, "There's no way you're going to get that printer tomorrow. In fact, I'm so convinced you won't get it that if it does arrive, I'll buy your lunch." It was a really good lunch, too. Am I suggesting that thank you should be written in expectation of receiving largesse or favors? Absolutely not. Thank you expresses gratitude and appreciation. But at a deeper level, thank you also expresses that I recognize you invested your time, your effort and perhaps your money in meeting a need of mine, getting me out of a jam, or perhaps making a desire of mine come true. And it means so much to me. And at a still deeper level, thank you can mean I see you. I recognize and I celebrate your worth and your uniqueness as a human being. But in order for simple words to sink in, they have to be received more than once, which is why you have to write it down. In this world of ours that is so crazy, our attention goes 30 different directions every second of every day. People are hungry, so hungry for just a taste of genuine recognition, appreciation, and dare I say it, acceptance. If you think I'm exaggerating, or even if you don't, I urge, no, I dare you to write a thank you note to your spouse, your best friend, your coworker, your boss, heck, even your parents. Thank these people for years of steadfastness and loyalty. Thank them for forgiving your faults and mistakes. Thank them for the casserole last month, for the quarter they put in the meter. Now, the first reaction might be, what do you want? But I'll wager that most of those thank yous end up on the refrigerator or in someone's cubicle, tacked up where all can see. The power of thank you can open eyes that are shut, fists that are clenched, and minds that are closed. The power of thank you. Release it, receive it in your own life, and you might be amazed at what happens. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Robert. What a wonderful speech. And do you know, the handwritten thank you is the one that really means a lot to me. It makes me feel good just even to get a card that says thank you, but if they hand wrote a note to me, that means so much more. And from what I understand, they're not going to teach cursive handwriting in school anymore. I just can't hardly believe that. We are ready for our topic session. Before we begin, I would ask if you have cell phones that are on, would you please put them on vibrate so that it won't interrupt the speakers. Some of the responders in the topic session, I think, get a little bit nervous because this is off-the-cuff speeches, and it can be a little frightening. So I would appreciate that. Our topic master, the person that came up with the questions for the topic session this evening, is Connie Higginson. I think she's been a member maybe 3 years. I'm not sure about that. She's been our club secretary. And how she can make a secretarial report interesting, I don't know, because they're just reporting what happened at the meeting. But she is just so concise, and she reads it with such a cute little smile and just a happy little note in her voice. It makes the secretary's report interesting to me. I don't think she's the secretary this year, but she has been at least 2 years that I know of. Please help me welcome our topic master, Connie Higginson.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Tonight we have actually pre-selected 5 people to answer table topics questions. Usually there is a little more mystery to it. That's part of the fun, but for the sake of time this evening, we pre-selected our speakers, and we ask that you wait to do applause until after each individual has done speaking. Our first speaker is going to be, the question is going to go to Mike Steiter. Mike, our guest Sandy Thompson has made a career for herself in television broadcasting. Have you ever been on television, and if so, tell us about it.
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, have I ever been on television before? I can only think of one time when I was on television before. There was a debate going on, and there was a news reporter in the city that I was in, and they were debating on something, and and the news reporter asked me what my opinion was, and I gave that opinion, and then the next day I heard it from all my coworkers that that didn't agree with me. So that was my one time on television. Madam Tabletop Master.
Thank you very much, Mike. The next question will go to Leon Kowalenko. Sandy Thompson is now the host of the PBS show Senior Spotlight. Do you watch PBS frequently? And if so, what is your favorite PBS show?
Madam Tabletop Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, I watch television, but I'm a news freak. Unfortunately, I don't watch PBS. I do watch other news programs, and I feel kind of out of it because at work, when I hear people they're talking about what television program they've seen or what movie they've seen, and I rarely hear people talking about news. I'm really into current events, and that's my favorite. Now, I do listen to a PBS on radio. I know it's carried every now and then. I'll listen to on that, but I am an avid TV and radio personnel. I'm very interested in that. Madam Tabletop Master.
Thank you very much, Leon. Our next question goes to Marty Stern. Indiana is known for having intense winter weather, which can cause school delays, bad driving conditions, and even keep you stuck inside. What is your favorite part of Indiana winters? Marty.
Madam Master, my favorite part of Indiana winters is those brief periods when the snow has fallen and it's cold and it's hard to drive because your car slips all over the place. But every so often there's a melt-off. The weather gets up to 35, 40 degrees. Life just seems so wonderful because we have a small break in the ice and the wind and the cold. And that is my favorite part of Indiana winters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty. This next question goes to Dave Fricky. Indiana has seen its share of tornadoes over the years. Have you ever seen a tornado? And if so, when and where?
Madam Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Been years ago, but my family was coming back from a spring vacation trip down south, and we had to stop at Indianapolis to see my aunt. And we visited her for about a couple hours, I think, something like that. But had we not done this, we probably would have been about 5 minutes behind the infamous Palm Sunday tornado of 1965. Some years ago, I was working construction, we were putting in a slab, and there's a tornado came through out of the area of Point Meadows. That thing come right toward us, picked up, went over the top of us, set back down about 200 feet on the other side of that slab, and kept right on going. Strangest experience I ever had in my life. Madam Topic Master.
Thank you very much, Dave. And our last question goes to our newest member of Anthony Wayne Toastmasters Club 529. He is so new, I only know his first name. Odaya, this question is for you. Why did you decide to become a Toastmaster?
Madam Table Topic Master and Toastmasters and honorable guests. I came here from India, South. My accent is Telugu. When I came over here, I'm not able to understand what they speak English, Americans, either Spanish or different people. So I realized that I need a communication. When I went to job, there are different accents, and every American state has different accents. And my accent is Telugu. I'm communicating like a smooth way, and here accent is some stressing the words, strokes. So I realized I need to speak, give the presentations at the client side, and I looked at the Toastmasters Club, I joined to improve my communication skills, personality, and leadership skills, and to speak in front of the public and at the client side to give the presentations. Thank you, Table.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Adaya. And that concludes our table topic session for this evening. And we bring control back to our Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Connie. I always call those the terrible topics. I have been a Toastmaster 25 years, and the topic session, speaking off the cuff, still terrifies me. But you know what? I would have loved to have answered any of those questions, Connie. It was a wonderful topic session. Now is the heart of the Toastmaster program. This is the meat of Toastmasters, the evaluation session. It's how we improve. We don't get grades, A, B. We don't pass or fail. And we do not get criticism either. That's a no-no. We don't criticize. We offer suggestions. And the suggestion you can take or leave as you see fit, because it's all in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Our first speech was given by Robert Knox, and the evaluator for the speech is Dave Wilkins.
Madam General Evaluator, Toastmasters guests, and of course Robert. Robert is going through the manual more than once. I don't know how many times he has given the speeches in there. His project tonight was to persuade us subject to his way of thinking. And you used all of the proper techniques, I have to say. It's the WIFM, W-I-F-F-M, what's in it for me. And you told us why thanking you was so important. Some hugely wonderful examples of where it has worked for you, and then a challenge to us as how it could work for us. You had great gestures, a nice smile. You just encompassed the whole room with what you had to say. The one thing that I would say that you did that you could change just a little bit might be a little slower. You have a lot to say, and you've had to get it all in as quickly as possible, but a little bit slower, and some of your salient points. If you would just wait just a moment at the end of those, give us a moment to let those sink in, you know. Ulysses didn't have to cross the Aegean Sea tonight to hear such a great speech, as far as I'm concerned. I really liked it. I liked the title. In fact, I liked everything about it. So as far as I'm concerned, you accomplished the goal of a persuasive speech. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dave. That was a very complete evaluation. Thank you. He offered suggestions, but he offered praise too, didn't he? Our next evaluator is the evaluator of the topic session, and that will be given by Greg Herring.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Good evening, Toastmasters, and welcome guests. During the table topic session, the response, what we look for is a mini speech. So we like to see an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Mike started out with, have you ever been on TV? He addressed the entire group. He repeated the question. That's always a great introduction, to repeat the question or rephrase it in a certain way. He told about his one experience on TV and the day he went to work and his coworkers told him how much he disagreed. But once he was finished, he summed up the question again and returned control to the table topics master. Leon was asked if he watched PBS. Again, he addressed the whole group. He said he's a news freak. He doesn't watch much PBS, but he said he's not a fan of movies, and so he kind of has trouble talking to other people because most people don't watch news. He concluded and returned control to the table topics master. Marty's question was, what's the favorite part of winter? He addressed the table topics master. He spoke about his favorite part of winter being the breaks in winter. And then he repeated the question as a statement, and he returned control to the table topics master. Dave was asked if he'd had any experience with tornadoes. He addressed the table topics master. He told of a couple of near misses, and then he returned control. And then Odaya he joined Toastmasters. He addressed everyone in the room. He stated why he joined Toastmasters for better understanding of the language and better communication skills. He returned control to the table topics master. So I'd say overall everyone did a fine job. One thing to look for, besides addressing just the table topics master, you want to try and address the whole group. Make sure you make good eye contact with as many people in the group as you can. Restate the question so it's clear what the subject is. Answer the question and then return control by addressing the table topics master again so it's clear that you're done with your part and they know it's their time to continue. Madam General Evaluator.
I always think that's a hard job, evaluating so many different people. That really hones your listening skills. Our next evaluator is our grammarian. This is a fairly new Toastmaster also. Jake Fetters, how did we do with our English?
To answer that, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, to answer that question on grammar, how did we do? Overall, I thought we did very well. Some interesting uses of the English language I caught off the cuff. I heard Bernice say she'd been a member. I thought that was a miscue, but the only one I caught all night. Robert, some very good uses. Reflexively, de rigueur, social gaffe, verbatim, superfluous, music to the one who receives them, trepidation. This is a good one too. It was quoting someone else. Don't you fret about it. I thought that was a little off for our grammar. Steadfastness and loyalty. I thought those were good words. And I'm doing it right now. I'm catching some ums, myself included. Through table topics, I had Mike with a few ums and ahs, but you're working on it, so keep it up. Heard about it the next day. I thought that was a good phrase. Leon's a few uhs and ahs and ahs, but I like the word avid. Good use of that. Marty, an in there as well. Dave, infamous. Palm Sunday tornado. I thought that was a good phrase, very descriptive. That thing come right toward us, I also heard. And that descriptive, but also a little bit better, could have been better phrased. Greg, he told, once he was finished, I caught. I thought finish probably should have had an ED, past tense. As far as the use of the word Augean, when I saw that word, I thought of Mike Rao. I don't know how many of you watched the show Dirty Jobs. This gentleman goes around all over different places, and I thought, now this guy has an Augean job. But I had Bernice use the word, Dave, and I just snuck it in there myself. So that is the grammarian's report for the evening.
I guess that was an Augean trick you played on me, giving me a word I couldn't pronounce very well. It means dirty, doesn't it? Dirty trick. Okay, thank you very much. We have one other job, the timer. Would you please tell us how we did with our timing? And we follow.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our dignitaries, and most welcome guests. Our speaker, or club speaker this evening, Robert, asked for 6 to 8 minutes and spoke for 7 minutes and 40 seconds. He was evaluated by Dave Wilkins in 1 minute and 16 seconds. In our topic session, Mike spoke for 40 seconds, Leon for 43, Marty for 28, Dave for 55 seconds, and Odai for 1 minute. Topics were evaluated by Greg in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Our grammarian's report was delivered by Greg our grammarian's report was delivered by Jake, in 2 minutes and 32 seconds. And I've now delivered the timer's report in 50 seconds.
Thank you, Andy. Staying within time is a very important part of life. Everybody is so busy nowadays. Time is precious. This is the thing that I really came for tonight, to hear our featured speaker. I met this lady twice. I met her tonight out in the hall before the meeting started, but I met her years and years ago in the 1990s at a Toastmaster conference, a district conference. I can't remember if it was here in Fort Wayne or in Indianapolis. I was thinking it was Indianapolis. She was the featured speaker at a Toastmaster conference, and she received the Communication and Leadership Award. Toastmasters usually give awards only to other Toastmasters. Not very often do we give a non-Toastmaster an award, but she received that award for not only her communication skills, but for her community work, because she is so active, has always been so active in the community. She also received another award in the 1990s, 1999. She received the Broadcaster of the Year award. I'm not surprised, Sandy. You're a wonderful broadcaster. Of course, she was our weather lady, the weather specialist for Wayne TV for 23 years. I always looked for her and her little red umbrella, her trademark. Now she hosts the PBS program, Senior Spotlight. That's on Wednesday evenings at 7:30, so be sure to tune in and catch that show. Well, that's enough out of me, isn't it? We heard about her. Let's hear what she has to say. Please help me welcome Sandy Thompson.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
I'm going to expect that from everybody tonight. I just told her I'm going to expect that from everybody tonight. It always feels good to get hugged, whether it's verbally, as Robert was talking about with thank yous, or a physical one. So, I'm open to either one tonight. May I say that I'm so impressed already this evening as I have heard these presentations and the different parts of your meeting this evening. You have so many skilled people here. Obviously, Bernice shows her years of experience with Toastmasters, and certainly a beautiful job this evening in leading this meeting. Robert, I'm just so impressed. If I ever graduate again, will you come and be my graduation speaker? He's just excellent. No wonder he has moved to such high levels. I actually taught speech, and I was actually a speech judge for many years. And we'll talk about that again in just a few moments, but I can recognize a good speaker when I see one, and definitely he is that. So let him be your example. I appreciated, Connie, you're conducting the topic sessions tonight. Where are you, Connie? Okay. What a great job you did. Very interesting questions, and I was over there answering them all myself in my mind. Those of you that were up at the mic answering her questions, what a great job you did. Speaking to the entire audience, I love that you had an introduction, that you answered the question, that you tossed it back to Bernice. Very professional. So I can see that here in Toastmasters, whether it's the Anthony Wayne group or wherever you are a member, certainly you are trained very well. Also, I want to appreciate you, Fred, in meeting me tonight and in starting off our program. What a great job you have been doing. And there are many more of you that I would like to thank throughout the evening, and I hope to meet a lot of you after the meeting's over. I'll be available if you have any extra questions or, a little extra hug you want to, share. That would be okay, too. I'm going to be talking about some different things tonight, two main topics. I'm going to be talking about my experiences in broadcasting and the importance of effective communication in our lives. I was so impressed to come in the room tonight and find that it is such a beautiful auditorium here at Ivy Tech. There's nothing Augean about it here this evening. I mean, as you look around on the floor, you count them, Jake. Do we have our Ivy Tech class here, or do we have some students here tonight? Okay, welcome. Are you in the management class? Yes? Okay. I want to welcome you on behalf of Toastmasters. What a wonderful thing to have you with us tonight. I heard from Jake earlier that the management class here at Ivy Tech was asked permission to come in and visit and listen for a little while tonight. I hope you go home with some new ideas, and I hope that you've picked up some of the materials out at the table tonight so that perhaps you'll be a new Toastmaster. As you can tell from the people that have been in here and up here this evening, there are certainly great skills that you can learn that will help you in many, many ways. Actually, effective communication is an extremely important part of our lives. Effective communication is the key to get where you want to be in your life, because you get to decide, and effective communication is a part of all of that. Communication is a very necessary skill, an essential skill for successful business and successful personal relationships. Yes, personal relationships, perhaps with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, your neighbor. Learning good communication skills can help with those relations as well. Man is not an island. You don't go around this world alone. You interact with people every day or every week or every month, millions of times in your lifetime, and you will find a much more successful life if your communication lines are effective and open, and you have the skills that go along with being a good communicator. As far as building relationships, it is a very powerful tool, and communication has an impact wherever it will occur. And we can use communication, by the way, to influence all of our interactions with other people in a very positive way. Negative if you wish, but positive is the way we hope you will go about it. We can learn these skills through places like Toastmasters. We can learn these skills through schools, but most of all, we can learn these by emulating others who are really good at communicating and then practicing it on our own. Now, this ability to connect and to build rapport with other people is the very foundation of a life skill that should be ideally and actively developed at a very young age, but it's never too late. You could join Toastmasters, I bet, at 90 years old and still learn something. And those of you that have been in it for many, many years, like Bernice and Dave and Robert, you probably continue to learn new skills. And fortunately, you share those skills with those that are new to the group. Well, it's a learned skill, and that's kind of a key word, a learned skill. I hear so many people say, I'm not any good at public speaking, or I'm shy. I always sit in the back and I never hold up my hand. Well, you can be taught to be different. Don't assume that the way you were in grade school is the way that you have to be the rest of your life. Your life's going to be much more effective if you do open up and learn to communicate with other people. In fact, statistically, 85% of your success in all areas of your life will be determined by your ability to communicate effectively with others. Now, communication works for those who work at it. Let me say that again. Communication works for those who work at it. That was a phrase from famous motivational speaker and author John Powell. George Bernard Shaw. You all have heard of George Bernard Shaw in the theater world. I like what he had to say. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Now think about it. I'm going to say it again. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Get it? You may feel that you have communicated clearly to your wife, to your child, to your neighbor, to your boss. But George Bernard Shaw says that's not always the case. We have the illusion that we said it clearly, and we say back to them, well, I told you that 4 times, or I communicated that to you yesterday. I communicated this to my employees, but they didn't do the job. Well, you had the illusion you were clear, but maybe in your presentation, you didn't choose the right words, you didn't have the right attitude, you weren't effective in terms of timing or pausing or emphasizing. Perhaps you were so scrambled in the way you presented your idea or your argument, it could have been an argument, that your topic was not made clear or your opinion was not made clear. So think about that a little bit as well. Well, you know, it's certainly one area to look at, that it is a learned skill. But one other thing that I do want to mention is that as we're speaking here this evening, and as you continue with your Toastmaster skills or your job skills, or for many of you as a student, perhaps you're speaking in front of your class, remember, anytime you're in front of the microphone or a TV camera like there is back there, you want to make sure that you don't use Augean language. How about that? Well, there are 5 factors that I want to mention to you this evening in terms of what is important for you in terms of learning how to communicate effectively. Okay, number 1, communicate effectively so that others will listen to you. Communicate so that others will listen to you and not fade off in the distance or daydream or think about something else. You know how we do that when we're not really in tune or paying attention to the speaker. So make sure that it is presented in a way that will be effective for other people to listen. Understand what other people are trying to communicate to you. Listen to them. Communication is often a two-way street. Don't be preparing your presentation, whether it's within that argument or to the employees or to your neighbor or coworker or fellow student. Don't be thinking of your answer while they're talking. Listen to them. And then your opinion back, or what you have to say, can be molded and presented more clearly if you hear what it is they're trying to talk about. Number 3, influence others to affect their opinion and change their behavior, not the other way around. Once again, influence others to affect their opinion and to change their behavior, not the other way around. And number 4, persuade is a key word in communicating effectively. You can persuade other people to agree with what you're saying or doing. Now, make sure that you're careful with this. People that are very skilled at speaking sometimes get people to agree with them only because they talk in such a way that the other people are thinking, oh, gee, they're so professional, or they're so verbal, they're so fluent in their language that they must be right, I must be wrong. If they used a lot of big words, like Robert did in his speech that Jake was counting, perhaps the listener will say, gee, they're more intelligent than I because they have all of this terminology that they use and fancy words that they use. So persuasion is a skill that can serve you well or serve you poorly. It will serve you well if you use it in an honest way. If you're trying to persuade your children, as Bernice mentioned earlier, to clean up their room, or persuade your teenagers to drive carefully and to not get involved in drugs. If you're trying to persuade your neighbor to please cut down his hedge that's falling over your fence, whatever your issue is, make sure that you present it in a very clear way. So use your communication skills to persuade people for positive ways and leave the other ways behind. And 5th, negotiate. Who doesn't negotiate on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? Whether it's negotiating, those of you at Ivy Tech tonight, if you're negotiating with your teacher to get out of class a little bit early, or to not have a final, or to make your research paper only 2 pages instead of the 10 that he's asking. If you're trying to negotiate a deal, you're going to be much more effective if you know how to speak in a way to make him listen. Again, some of the ideas that even Dave presented in his evaluation of Robert's speech, speak slowly, clearly, have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Repeat or begin with what you want, what you're asking for in this negotiation, and then the body will be the reasons why, and then conclude it with, again, asking for what you're negotiating for. What you started with should be what you complete with. So those 5 tips, again, communication, understanding, influencing, persuading, and negotiating will all serve you well as you move through this life with communication skills. Now, the great truth is that you can become a very powerful communicator. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, oh, not me, I could never do what Bernice does, or what Dave does, or what Jake does, or Greg coming up to the microphone, or the speakers with the topics tonight. Maybe you're sitting there new at this, and you think, I can't do that. Get your feet wet. I often speak at high schools, and we talk about how to prepare for life and prepare for jobs in the communication world. And I tell them to get as involved as they can in anything. Get involved in Toastmasters if you're not yet, and you will become as skilled as they are. They'll help you along. Get involved with other things. Be the one that holds up your hand at church and says, yeah, I'll read the special verses for today. At the PTA meeting, in your class, and you have to give a report on something. I mean, start with baby steps. If you're pretty shy, just offer to lead the Pledge of Allegiance or something very simple. Anything to get you in front of people. I recommend to students they get involved in things like theater. And even as adults, you can get involved in community theater or neighborhood theater, or simple things. Help with a little skit with Halloween coming up or Christmas coming up at your church or your school. So get involved in anything that you can that will put you in front of people. And I do want to mention another quote that I particularly enjoyed. Anthony Robbins, I think, is a person that you've probably all heard of. I'm seeing some head shaking right now, and I appreciate that you know about him. I think that he's absolutely fabulous at what he does as a motivator. And as far as Andy, you're shaking your head very emphatically, so I think that you appreciate what Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins has to say. He's a very famous motivator. We have tapes, we have videos, we have CDs, he's on TV, he's written books, he has spoken internationally, he's hired by major conventions and major corporations to motivate employees, to motivate managers. He's hired by celebrities to help them with their public speaking. You know, maybe they're really good at acting, but they're not very good when it comes to the press conference or getting up in front of somebody and giving their acceptance speech at the Academy Awards or the Emmys. And he's hired to help people communicate. And this is what he had to say, which I think is extremely helpful. He says, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and we use this understanding as a guide to our communications with others. What that means is don't try to emulate Robert or Bernice or anybody else that you're hearing here this evening, or me, or anybody else that's going to be speaking at your meeting next month. You don't have to be like them. Just be you. Everybody has their own unique way. I think you mentioned Connie's sweetness in her reading her minutes. And another person with a different personality might present that a different way. So don't try to become a different person. Just be you. If you have been around me or watched me on TV at all, you know I'm basically pretty casual. This is really hard to stand behind a microphone, by the way. After 28 years of walking and talking and moving around, usually it is an extremely informal presentation, and that is suited well to my personality. I like to be with people. I like to communicate with people. I like to get in your faces, and I might do that before the night's over, so we'll see how that goes. But make your own particular personality shine. Just make sure that some of those key things that you've watched and listened to tonight and that we've talked about are a part of your presentation. Now, as far as my career and my life in broadcast, a lot of people think that I have just been in broadcast for over 20 years. Now, you mentioned, Bernice, that I had been with Wayne TV 23 and a half years. Before that, I was with WPTA doing weather for about 3.5 years there. Now I'm working at PBS. Again, we'll give a little plug, Senior Spotlight. It's a wonderful informational show on Wednesday nights at 7:30. I have guests on, perhaps they're attorneys or doctors. We have a different topic every week that the station prepares. And then we take calls. And sometimes, here's communication, sometimes the people ramble and it takes them 2 minutes to get to what their question is. If they would just succinctly and clearly present their communication, it would be much easier for those guests to hear that particular call. But I enjoy it very much, and I encourage you and invite you to watch and to listen. Next week, we're having 3 attorneys on from Beers, Mallers, Bax, and Salem that will be taking calls from the viewers, and we'll be dealing with any legal issue that we happen to get a phone call about, although we have a major topic that is for the evening. But it wasn't just those years that I mentioned that I was in broadcast. Those were the years, maybe 28 roughly of them, that I was paid to communicate. There were a lot of years I was unpaid, and that's because if my father were still here and could tell you, I actually started in TV when I was 5 years old. Strange, I'm seeing question marks on your faces. Big question marks right here. Well, that's because, and actually some of this began before I can even remember. I apparently started at about 5 years old. My friends were all playing with Barbie dolls and all the regular girl things. Well, I would get my dad to bring me home a big cardboard box that he could find out behind the appliance store. A refrigerator box or a stove box, great big cardboard box. He'd bring that home to me, and then he would help me at my instructions cut out a big square, and then underneath, big opening here, underneath all these dials. Now, the students that are in here, you have no clue what that's about. What you know about is the remote control. Well, back in those days, which was not very long ago, obviously, the televisions had dials on the front. You actually had to get up and walk over to the TV to change the channel or to increase the volume. You even had to get up to go turn it on and off. Well, anyway, so I would draw all those things on the front. Then I would cut the back of it completely out, push it up against the wall, and then I would get inside of it. And here's what I'd do. We'll assume that's the cardboard box back here. Okay, so my wall would be back here, and I would sit on a stool, a little short stool, in the box, and I would do the news. I even had call letters. I can't remember what they were, but my dad would have been able to tell you. And I did all the news by myself. I did the news, I did the weather, and I did the sports. However, my brothers both told me I was not very good at sports at all. I even had imaginary play-by-plays that I would be describing inside my little TV. And for weather, I taped on the wall behind me Rand McNally maps. We had no atlases that were not torn up in my house because, well, first of all, the United States map and Indiana were cut out, and they'd be taped up on the wall, and there I would be sitting on my little stool doing the weather. So that was my first experience. Again, didn't get paid. They didn't even consider that part of my allowance. But apparently I knew at a very early age that communication in some way was in my heart, and that some way I had to outplay that in my life. I went on through high school trying to get as much as experience as I could, again, in things like speech class and get into school plays, a lot of things that I did. Didn't do anything Augean, I promise you, I did not. I was always on the up and up. Now, I then went to college, 2 years at Huntington University. At that time, it was called Huntington College. But then they didn't have a communications degree there, and I knew that I wanted to be in broadcast, so I transferred down to Indiana University at Bloomington and completed my degree then in communications with journalism also, and English and literature and speech as minors. So I had a major in English and a major in communications. Well, I loved what I was doing and never could believe they'd hand me a check. It wasn't very big, but that didn't matter. I mean, well, it did matter, but it certainly was not the reason that I was in the world of broadcast and communication. It was because it's in my heart. And if any of you have that as a desire in terms of a profession, if there's anything or any advice that I can give you, it would be, again, to be involved in all of the communication fields that you can in any way. Get very used to being in front of people and talking to people. However, when you do get in the TV business, there aren't many people there. You're in a studio with the cameras, a couple of other people sitting beside you, and you're talking to nothing. But I always viewed the people somehow. I'd look into the camera, and I would see, like, you have such a nice smile. What is your name? Tim? Okay, nice to meet you, Tim. You've been very supportive tonight, and I appreciate that. He's nodding and smiling, and a very good participant here. And I always, again, consider communication a participatory sport. Well, I meet people very often, either at events or out in the public somewhere, or at the drugstore, at Menards, anywhere. And I just try to visualize those people on the other side of the camera. Dave mentioned that he had been watching for a long time, and I think, was it you that I was talking to, Jake? No, Bernice, I think you said, oh, I feel like I'm being too personal with you. I feel like I know you already. Well, that's very much a compliment, because it is a very personal thing. You know, I'm visualizing you. Maybe I'm visualizing you at the dinner table watching the news. Perhaps at the 11 o'clock news and you're sitting up in bed. I won't go beyond that, or we would have a very Augean conversation this evening. But my career has been very fulfilling to me, and it's not over yet. I'm certainly enjoying the part-time work that I'm doing now at PBS. I am thoroughly enjoying my increased amount of time that I have with my two beautiful grandchildren and my two children and daughter-in-law and son-in-law, all that live here in Fort Wayne. Unfortunately, they've had to pay the price of me working, 50, 60 hours a week for so many years. So right now, I would say the harmony of family is my goal, and to continue to communicate just as clearly with them, I hope, in my needs and desires and their needs and desires as anything else in my life. And although my TV business has been certainly extremely fulfilling, there's a lot of life yet for me, and I certainly know that communication is going to play a role in that. And I hope that I'm a success. And I'll leave you with this. The way to success is often through perseverance. Successful people see their failures as stepping stones, and unsuccessful people see their failures as roadblocks. It's not how fast you get there, it's about the journey. So it's not how fast you get to the quality of a speaker that Robert is, but it's the journey along the way. And I know many of you new to Toastmasters are enjoying the small steps, but as you grow, you will see that you're enjoying the journey. And some of that journey is just simply the relationship you're having with the other people in the group. I've enjoyed talking to you tonight about my experiences in the broadcast world and about the importance of effective communication in our lives. But before I leave, I would like to open the floor to any questions that anybody might have. Anything is game, as long as, again, it's not Augean. How we doing, Jake? Yes, Fred.
Describe how you got your first break into television.
Okay.
What that experience was like.
Thank you. He asked how I got my first break in television and what that experience was like. Actually, at that time, I was working in, my children were small, and I knew I wanted to get into the TV and broadcast world, but I also didn't want my family to sacrifice. So I quit teaching when my children came along, and they were very close, like 15, 16 months apart. So I was very busy with toddlers and babies for a while, and then I started easing back into the working world, got into it pretty full-fledged in no time as the fashion special events and marketing coordinator for LS Airs. And on a regional basis, I had 6 different stores I was responsible for. And emceeing and speaking was a lot of that work that I did. And we had a lot of events and activities and community fundraisers and things that were philanthropic for the community. So I was often on TV on things like, what was it, Jane Hirsch's show, trying to think of the name of that. It was an hour-long talk show. There were a lot of local broadcasts done then. There are not many things broadcast live locally anymore, but there used to be a lot more local talk shows. So I was on the other side as the guest quite often. And finally, that was on 21, or Indiana News Center, and the news director approached me then and said, I understand you have a degree in TV and communication. Have you ever thought about working? And I said, well, I'm really not ready to jump in yet full time. And he said, well, would you be interested in maybe doing weekends for us for a while? And so that seemed to work. So I did weekends there, and then that grew into more and more days a week, quitting my other job because, of course, TV was really where I wanted to be. And it all just felt right. Felt good. Thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
My name's Grover. I have a 2-part question.
Okay, Grover, I can handle a 2-part question, maybe.
The first part is, what is the most difficult part of weather forecasting in the Midwest? And the second part is, do you believe global warming and other different weather patterns have mixed up the 4 seasons that we've been accustomed to?
Okay, first he asked, what was the first one? See, I wasn't listening. I'm not an effective listener. What's the most difficult part of weather forecasting? And that is extremely difficult in Indiana. I believe somebody said earlier, I watched you for many, many years, and they laughed and said, even if you were wrong. But I will tell you, it is so hard. Weather forecasting will never be 100% because there are factors way beyond the clouds that you see up above or the radar that you're looking at. Our weather can be affected by a volcanic eruption on another planet, seriously, that may move enough of an air mass enough that eventually makes its way to the Earth and interrupts the jet stream in California, which makes it move around and move a different way to Indiana. I mean, it's totally impossible. I think God could probably get a 100% weather accuracy. Maybe not, I don't know, it's pretty tough. But if you can get 70% right, that's pretty much a normal accuracy rate. National Weather Service is around 70, 75%. That's pretty good. I feel that I had a really good accuracy rate. Yes, there were days when things changed, weather patterns changed, either by the jet flow or warm air rising or just a lot of different factors. But I actually had many students through the years from IPFW or St. Francis, unbeknownst to me, that maybe what they did for a class was to record the forecast and the accuracy for all the 3 TV stations. And then they would let me know later, you won, you won. And I was always so thrilled about that. Again, this was totally unbiased, and I didn't even know it was happening. So I was very pleased with that. So I'm very proud of that accuracy rate. It is very hard in our area, and I'll tell you why. Weather is so affected by water, a water source. Guess what's just north of us? 5 lakes, the Great Lakes. And if you put all those together, that's a huge amount of water. And we're right here in the middle of the country. So we are influenced by what's coming from the west toward us, what's to the south, even the Gulf, that's pushing up north, and we're affected by how the water relates to it north of us at the Great Lakes. And not so much from the east, because most weather moves from west to east, not east to west, unless there's a nor'easter, a big blizzard coming in from the Atlantic Ocean. So it's very hard here. Systems can be marching from the West Coast all the way across the country, very predictive, and we may be saying, well, you know, if it continues at the same speed in the same direction, this system or this storm should be arriving here around Wednesday, maybe Wednesday night into Thursday. Well, it gets up here, gets in our area, and maybe it picks up warm air rising off the Great Lakes in the summer, or cold air masses with the ice in the winter, and it can totally change that system. Anybody will tell, I've had the forecasters from the National Hurricane Center and from the National Climatic Center where severe weather warnings and watches are issued in Kansas City say that they feel the Great Lakes region is the hardest area to predict because of the Great Lakes. Much more difficult than any place else, and that's why we get a lot of circulation here, and we get things stuck here, like it is right now, where we're having rain and rain and rain. It's like there's a low pressure here that's not going anywhere. It's just not going anywhere. And then we have those days in the summer with a long spell of very dry. So it's extremely difficult. So even though I'm not doing any weather anymore, it's still in my heart too. So thank you for that weather question. And he asked if I felt like global warming was, yes, Bernice, you want to help me? Global warming, right? Isn't that what he was talking about? Global warming is if it's affecting our weather patterns. I have mixed feelings about global warming, and I have been to many weather conferences and National Weather Association meetings where that is discussed on an extremely precise meteorological level. It's still a split topic. Some of the best scientists in the country will say, yes, global warming's affecting our weather patterns and our seasons. Other extremely credible scientists will say, you know, maybe not. We're looking at a weather pattern in terms of global warming that maybe has just involved us in the last 10, 20 years. Well, that's only a speck in time. You would have to look at weather statistics for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries to find out whether this pattern really means anything or not, or it may just be a short phase that we're going through. Yes?
Throughout your whole life, what would have to be your hardest speech that you were really nervous about?
My hardest speech. Oh, that's easy. And it was my, it was a toast at my daughter's wedding, because I kept crying. As far as topics, I'm not afraid of any topic. I've talked again at, you know, the highest level in the weather world. I was on the board of the National Weather Association many, many years. I've been an officer in National Weather Service. I have spoken in front of military weather areas and hired by the government to, well, they didn't hire me, they paid my way to come to Washington, D.C. and to MC and host and lead different seminars. So those, yeah, I was a little apprehensive the first time you go through. But yeah, it has to be something to do with family. Thank you for that question. Yes? When did I begin to prepare the speech for tonight? Time frame? I would say 2-3 hours. You know, I mean, I have an idea of what I want to say, and then take the time to organize it. And I felt very oh, what's the word? I felt very serious about tonight, knowing how not only how skilled you are, but I want to be an example as well. I gave a graduation commencement speech at the Coliseum, thousands of people, and I went during my dinner break from work. And we had severe weather the night before when I was going to be writing and making my notes. I had no note. I had like maybe 5 sentences on an index card and gave a commencement speech. So it varies depending on, but I knew that was all about motivating young people. That was an interesting question. Why did you ask that? Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay. He took a communication speech class at Ivy Tech. And again, it's a lot of it is a matter of experience. Now, Robert could get up and give a speech probably on any topic you would say, and it would be a wonderful speech without any preparation. Or you tell him he's got 10 minutes to go back there and make some notes. And those of you that are newer, you might need 10 hours to prepare. Somebody else back here, yes? Oh, the most embarrassing moment on TV. It even made YouTube. Oh yes. Uh-huh. I think it's long gone now. Let me think what the other. Oh, there've been so many. Like in what, almost 28 years, a lot of stupid stuff. Again, everything I did was always live, so you didn't get a chance to do it over. Things like promotions, a promo or whatever, you can tape that again and again, but regular TV news is all live, so whatever happens, happens. The very first time that I was doing the weather, very first show, and of course I'm very nervous anyway, a giant fly, one of those end of the summer, great big black ones, landed right on my nose. So I'm there doing the weather, and I'm trying to decide, do I go like this? Because if they can't see the fly, they're going to think I'm crazy. Or what do I do? Well, eventually, he went away, Let me think. Another time, there were several times that I dropped my switcher to switch the maps. I knew people could tell. I knew people could tell. I can't just keep talking about the one behind me. I had to change it. And you always kind of hope that the guy running the camera will notice and will run over to the computer or crawl down on his hands and knees and pick it up and hand it to me. But they, of course, never did. They just, enjoyed seeing me in a situation. So I would just be, and I would recommend this even for those of you that are going to be speaking, whether it's in Toastmasters or in your class or whatever. Just be honest with people. I would just say, excuse me, I dropped something kind of important. I'll be right back. And, went down and get it. Another time I fell flat on my face during the weather. It was in the winter and a photographer had come in the back door, snow all over his boots, and had walked across that area right before the show to get a tape back to the control room. And by the time I got up to go do weather, obviously I did not notice, the snow had melted right where I stand. So as I was turning to do something, to point another direction, I slipped and fell right on my face on the air, live on the air. I think that was the one that was YouTube, or what's the other show called? The America's Funniest Videos. Somebody sent something to that. But I actually got up and finished doing the weather, walked back to the desk, chatted with my co-anchors, joked about it, and as soon as they went to commercial break, I just screamed and started crying. It was awful. It was like knives in my chest. And the couple of photogs and one of the reporters put me in the car, took me to the emergency room. I had broken a couple ribs, but I thought, as with theater and with speaking in that world, the show must go on. So a lot of really stupid things. I don't know if you remember Scott Klein, some of those people. Mark Mellinger, who's on now, we have a great relationship, and they loved pulling my leg or getting me joking around because that's what I did. Okay, yes?
You consider yourself a pretty good communicator and a speech giver. Do you feel it's easier, like what's the differences between delivering a speech or a type of sentence to a small group, large group, or like on camera? Like is there... Like,
To me, there's no difference. I would speak the same way, whether there were 2 of you out here or whether there were 2,000. To me, it's no different. Robert.
Were you ever in a situation where you had people, co-workers off camera who were making you laugh?
Oh, yes, they totally like to do that. Robert said, do you ever have the situation where you have coworkers off camera trying to make you laugh? Yes. Oh, yeah, that's one of the games of TV. Yeah, exactly. But I do it back to them, too, you know. It just, we had a situation once when one of the anchors, actually that was Mark Mellinger as well, and this was a number of years ago when he first started anchoring, and he was reporting on, it was a murder in, I can't remember, someplace north, I don't know, it was Auburn, Angola, someplace. I mean, it was a really serious thing. I mean, it was a brutal crime that was committed, and it was 3 brothers, let me think, golly, I can't remember their exact names. It was like Melvin and his brother Kelvin and his brother Stelvin or something. Well, he had to read these names, and he's reading, you know, and the prosecutors are having the trial tomorrow for Melvin, Kelvin, and Stelvin or whatever, and he just got tickled because it sounded like cartoon names and they all rhymed, and he started laughing, and he could not quit. And then he would try to get real serious, and he'd start to read, and he'd be reading the next story, and he'd start laughing again. And it was really funny. They actually went to a commercial break early so that he could get control of himself. Yeah. Yes?
When you would give the weather in the evening late, you would be pointing at the camera.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you would back out of the picture.
Okay, good question.
Yeah, and they still do that. They still do that.
Occasionally.
But did you start that?
I'll tell you what, you mean during the weather?
Because what you're doing is you're going over and sitting down there. You back out of the...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you meant within the weather presentation. 2 things. Okay, Dave asked if on TV, you know, you back out of the picture as you're talking. Okay, there are 2 situations. Number 1, you do that naturally. I might have been the first one to do that. That seemed like the sensible thing. I just did it so long I don't remember. But you're over at the weather wall talking, and then you say, and you show them the last map, and here's a look at our current radar. Let's take a look at our forecast, and then you walk off, and you actually walk over to the set, talking the whole time, and everything's ad lib. Whether there was nothing written, nothing prepared, you had to have it all in your head and try to make it sound intelligent and organized. Watch your time cues, everything all at once. So you're walking, talking, go back over, sit down at the desk, and then they come back on camera, and you're sitting there with the other people, and you start talking again. Now, another situation would be if you are changing your maps with your little remote. I'll tell you a little secret on that, too. The remote control to change our maps, it's really a garage door opener. It really is. In a garage, we went to Lowe's and bought because we had one that was on a cord, and we'd have to press the switch. Well, every time we turn, we get the cord tangled up in our legs, and that's why I would drop it occasionally. So we knew you could do something remotely. We just had to figure out why. And talked with one of our engineers, and he said, well, here's what you could do. Go buy a garage door opener, and I'll put the receiver behind the weather wall, and you can press the button and open the garage door or change your maps. So we just had that connected with our computer, because we would program the order of the maps. We'd program all of that in beforehand, and then every time we press, it would advance it to the next map. Well, sometimes it didn't work. And if it didn't work, then we would smile and keep chatting as we walked away, again, out of the TV screen, ran over to the computer, and did it manually on the computer. So that's another situation. Okay, maybe one more question. I think I've probably extended my time a little bit much. Yes? Oh, thank you. Senior Spotlight. How long have I done Senior Spotlight? Let's see, I started in January. Yeah, this past January. Yes, although I have done talk shows before. I did a talk show on Wayne TV for 8 or 9 years when I first started, called City Style 15, which was an hour-long show on community events and activities that were going on. And it would be like 4 different segments in that hour. One might be medical, something on health. One might be events coming to town. Another might be on cooking. Another one might be on literature or art. I had some great times then. I'll probably throw out some names some of you younger people don't know, but at that time I got to interview people like Burt Reynolds. Had a great time interviewing him. He was here in town to do a show, and we had a wonderful long conversation in the green room at the embassy. Let me see, who else? Fabio. And yes, his hair is real. Yeah, he's nothing artificial in that. He's kind of not real smart, though. He really wasn't. Not a great communicator. All he had to do was pose and look. For those of you that don't know who he is, he's the male model on a lot of, what do you call them, romance novels. Yes. Let's see. What was her name? The nurse, not the housekeeper in, what was it called? The Two Blended Families. Brady Bunch? Alice, who's hysterical. She was great. Bruce Jenner. Yeah, and so, it was really a wonderful opportunity. So having met and talked to a lot of those people certainly helped me, again, experience, practice, to learn to be comfortable with anybody at any time. That was very interesting. And she also mentioned, which was very kind of you, that she liked my voice. I worked on that as well. My voice used to be higher, but I also realized that your ears tune in and pay attention to a lower range. And they have monitored that even medically and statistically too, that a lot of times women, because of a higher voice, they don't come across as credible and as serious, or their opinions, whether it's at a PTA meeting or, not just TV, but in ordinary life, that they are not taken as seriously because of a higher voice. But being on TV, I really wanted to work on the credibility. So I worked very hard to be able to lower my voice. Now it's just there. It is what it is. I can't change that. Yes, Robert.
Over 28 years in the business, do you think that the broadcast news has changed and it reflects a shorter attention span?
Yes, it has. Robert asked, but you could probably hear him. Over the 28 years, has the viewership, the way they're viewing changed? Do I think that the person watching has a shorter attention span, or how things have changed? Yes, and yes. To begin with, years ago, you had a choice of, 5 stations, the fabulous 5. ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and PBS. That's all your TV broadcast. Well, then, of course, through the years, then we came along with cable TV. Cable TV has increased from, 5 cable channels to 200 of them now or something. Now we have the internet. Now we have cell phones. Now we have, when we were doing the weather in the last several years, not only was the job to do the weather on the news at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 11, I also was updating the website. I was taping videos that would go on our website, taping videos to send to cell phones of weather forecast. I mean, it's just changed immensely. And yes, it is harder and harder to keep people's attention. TV, unfortunately, is suffering, as is radio, because people can get their news now. You can reach in your pocket and get your iPod out and tell me what the latest news is. We don't have to wait till 11 o'clock to watch the news. You can find out right now. You can, get your cell phone out and look at a radar image and find out if the rain's on the way. I mean, there's just so many immediate ways people can get communication from a broadcast realm that it is just getting tougher and tougher. So people have to get better and better, but I don't know that they really are, because it's becoming a more shaky profession, because people really don't know how long it's going to last. So if somebody's trying to decide, should I get into TV or should I go to law school? Well, it used to be you go with your heart, like I did. And now, if I had to make that choice again, it would be hard to decide, what do I think is going to last for, 20, 30, 40 years of my lifetime? Very good question and a good observation, Robert. Okay, one last one. Yes, ma'am. You're so cute. Isn't she cute? Are you a student? Yeah. Okay.
Have you seen the signs for you on Lafayette and Clinton?
Oh, bless your heart. She asked, well, you could hear her, if I've seen the signs. I have not seen the signs, but I have had many people email me pictures of the signs. Apparently, there's somebody that's putting up signs. One of them, I guess, says, "Bring Sandy back," and it has my red umbrella. And apparently that's been up and down many times. And I have, let's say I finished with Wayne TV in October of last year, so it's been almost a year. And they're still saying that, "Bring Sandy back." Now, for the last few months, I guess there's a sign saying, "Sandy Thompson for mayor." And it has the red umbrella. So I already have my slogan. If I'm mayor, you'll get coverage you can count on. And then my umbrella. So I am hoping for a whole lot of write-in votes. That's my goal. Thank you. One of these days I need to drive out there and look, but it feels so vain. Well, thank you all very, very much, and I really appreciate your time tonight. Madam Toastmaster, thank you for allowing me to take the microphone so long this evening. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. At first I thought you were just standing up to leave, so thank you.
Sandy, I'm always telling my husband, you don't listen to a thing I say. I guess I have the illusion that I'm communicating, and I'm not at all. And when you were talking about them trying to make you laugh, when I was 12 years old, a friend of mine got me laughing, and I couldn't quit, and we were in a funeral home. And I laughed so hard, the tears were coming down, and people actually were saying, "That poor little girl." And they were trying to comfort me, and I didn't even know the deceased. Didn't even know him. But such a wonderful talk. We really enjoyed you very much. Sandy believes that we are wonderful speakers, but I don't believe she thinks we can spell. If you look on the program, her name is misspelled. Thompson. And I pointed it out to her before the evening, and I said, "This is how it's spelled, isn't it?" And I wrote it down. She said, "Bernice, that's not how I spell my name either." I was wrong. It's Thompson. No. Okay, no P. Third time's a charm. I don't care. Well, it has been a delightful evening. I hope you had as good a time as I did, and I hope you will join us on Thursday evening at Anthony and Wayne Toastmasters here in this building. I don't remember the room number, but I will let Fred finish the promo for Toastmasters. Our president, Fred Horn.
Thank you very much, Bernice. Nice job, Sandy. Nice job, Bernice. I do have a couple of presentations to make before we close, and I will be brief. And the first presentation, as Robert was talking about appreciation, the first presentation I have to make is a certificate of appreciation to Dave and Bernice Wilkins, if you wouldn't mind. Dave and Bernice have been what I call the heart and soul of the club. And Dave, he's a Toastmaster that insists on excellence in Toastmastering. Bernice is the warmth, the positive attitude of the club. And I'll just read to you what the certificate says. Anthony Wayne Toastmasters presents this certificate of appreciation to Dave and Bernice Wilkins in honor of their years of serving their club with distinction, upholding the club's time-honored traditions, promoting excellence, and creating a uniquely positive environment. Thank you so much for being part of Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, Dave and Bernice.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my next presentation will go to our featured speaker. Sandy, if you would join me at the lectern here for a moment. Sandy, thank you very much for being here. And I was telling Sandy.
Oh, no.
Yes. I was telling Sandy, and she mentioned that when I have just met her today, before the evening, I started speaking to her just like I had known her forever because, yes, because she comes into our homes via the television for so many years with the warm smile and the caring, the long hours, the holidays, and all of that. And so I hope I speak not only for Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, but also for the Fort Wayne area. And I present this certificate of appreciation to Sandy Thompson in honor of her years of serving the people of the Fort Wayne area through dedication to broadcasting excellence, generosity in community service, and fostering goodwill. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
And what a wonderful presentation you gave. I especially like the question and answers, how she was open to every question and really personable. And we really appreciate you being with us, Sandy. Thank you. And we appreciate all of you being with us tonight at our Toastmasters Open House. Join us any Thursday night here at Ivy Tech. Thursdays at 6:30 in room 1550. It's just down the hall. And if there is nothing else, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Very sweet and certainly a surprise. You have a song you're going to play now? Hi, Robert.